Before we start, please make sure to like this video and hit this subscribe button so you never miss a story like this. And also comments where you are watching from, how many sons and daughters you have. Thanks. My name is Eleanor Grace, though most people just call me Ella. My age? 67. Old enough to have seen enough winters, but not so old that I can't smell a lie when it's right under my nose. That morning, I wasn't looking for trouble. I had only planned to run an errand, a simple, boring errand. Close an old savings account that Robert, my late husband, and I had opened decades ago. An account that had sat like a quiet emergency light in the back of my life, untouched, but glowing with security. I carried my worn leather purse, the same one Robert had gifted me on our 25th anniversary, and walked into the bank expecting nothing more than paperwork and a polite goodbye from the teller. But what I saw instead? It stole the air from my lungs. Just 2 counters away, my son Daniel stood shoulder to shoulder with his wife Chloe, leaning close to a teller, whispering urgently. Chloe's designer handbag, cream leather, gold clasp, was spread open on the counter. And inside it? Bundles of cash. Not just any cash. My cash. The bills slid in, one after another, as Chloe's manicured fingers tucked them neatly into place. She smiled, radiant, like a woman who'd just won a prize. Daniel signed something casually, as if this entire theft was nothing more than ordering lunch. My knees went weak. My mouth opened, but no words came out. They hadn't seen me. Not yet. I ducked behind a marble pillar near the pamphlet stand, heart hammering so loudly I was sure the teller could hear it. Her voice rang out, too bright, too cheerful. Is there anything else I can help you with today, Mr. Grace? Mr. Grace. My son. Chloe chirped back, slipping the printed receipt into her wallet. We're all set. All set. That's what she called it, walking away with my life savings zipped inside a designer bag. Daniel nodded, thanked the teller, and took Chloe's hand. They turned, ready to leave, glowing with the ease of people who believed the world bent for them. I stumbled backward, out the glass doors before they spotted me. The wind slapped against my coat as I hurried down the bank steps, nearly tripping. My vision blurred, not from age, but from shock. I didn't want them to see me. I didn't want them to know. Not yet. I half ran down the street, past the florist, past the pharmacy, past the places Robert and I had once visited on lazy Saturdays. My breath caught in my throat, and in a whisper I almost said his name aloud. Robert. He had warned me years ago. His voice echoed in memory, warm but firm. Don't give too much away too early, Ella. Make sure he loves you more than your checkbook. At the time, I laughed it off. Daniel was my only son. He'd been stressed, yes, always asking for a little money here, a little help there, but what child doesn't lean on their mother now and then? That was 6 years ago. Before the refinance. Before Chloe came sweeping into our lives with her smile that never quite reached her eyes. I stopped at the park, my hands shoved deep into my coat pockets, my purse banging uselessly against my hip. I sat on a cold bench and watched the world carry on without me. A mother struggled to buckle her toddler into a booster seat. A boy skateboarded past, earbuds in, oblivious. Shops opened and closed. People laughed. And me? I was 67 years old, suddenly stripped of the one safety net Robert and I had built together. That account was supposed to protect me in old age. It was our just in case. Now Chloe had zipped it shut inside her handbag. I thought of Daniel as a boy. The sound of his small voice on the soccer field, "Watch me, Mama." The way he clutched my hand at the zoo. The tears when I dropped him off at camp for the first time. That little boy had once loved me without question. So where had he gone? What had I done to turn him into this man, a man who looked at me and saw only dollar signs? I stayed on that bench until the light shifted, the air cooled, and the ducks disappeared from the pond. When I finally stood, my knees groaned, but my mind was sharper than it had been in years. I remembered the call from the bank months ago, a woman confirming a new email on file. I'd told her it must be a mistake. It hadn't been a mistake. I remembered the day after my surgery when Daniel insisted on helping with my paperwork, setting up online banking so I wouldn't struggle. I thought it was kindness. Now I saw it for what it was, a setup. Step by step, he and Chloe had erased me from my own account until I was nothing but a ghost attached to their spending. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at the kitchen table under the dim light, staring at the floral wallpaper Robert had once teased me about. I went to the closet and dug out an old tin box. Inside, I found the last paper statement I had for that account. $46,300. The number mocked me from the page. I pictured Chloe's purse bulging with bills at the bank. A lifetime of house cleaning jobs, coupon clipping, vacations sacrificed. Gone. I took out a pen and began to write. Dates. Clues. Every suspicious moment I had ignored. The list grew, short but heavy, like weights pressing into the paper. At midnight, I whispered to the empty kitchen. They think I don't know. But I do. I tucked the list into my purse. I wasn't sure yet what I would do. Not revenge. Not yet. But I would dig. I would find proof. And then, I would confront them. As I switched off the light, a chilling calm spread through me. Daniel and Chloe believed I was blind, weak, easily fooled. They believed I would never notice. But tonight, for the first time in years, I felt my eyes opening. They thought they had stolen my future. But they had no idea, I was just getting started. But in that week after the bank, I started feeling like a stranger even to myself. 67 years old, a widow, and a mother who had believed for too long that her son's love was stronger than his greed. I kept hearing Robert's voice in my head, "Trust is fragile, Ella. Once cracked, it never looks the same again." That night after the bank, I couldn't push Daniel's face out of my mind. The casual way he leaned over the counter, signing papers like it was second nature. Chloe's laugh, airy and bright, like she'd just bought groceries instead of robbing her husband's mother. And the worst part? They had planned it all with a smile. I thought back to last spring, when I was recovering from knee surgery. I'd been weak then, foggy from pain medication, hobbling around in slippers. Daniel and Chloe had come by with flowers and a box of tea. "Mom, why don't we help organize your paperwork?" Daniel had asked, already reaching for the stack of envelopes on my desk. I'd been too tired to protest. Chloe had smiled sweetly, patting my arm. "You shouldn't stress about bills. Just let us handle it." So I had. I gave Daniel my folder of bank documents, checkbooks, and even my online banking login. I thought I was being smart, delegating to the son who had always been my responsible boy. How naive I had been. I remembered how proud I'd felt when Daniel set up paperless billing. "Easier for you, Ma," he'd said. "No more clutter. Everything runs smoother this way." I'd nodded, relieved, grateful. And from that day forward, I never saw another paper statement. I thought it was progress. Now I saw it was a cover-up. The cheerful phone call from the bank 2 months ago echoed in my head. A woman confirming my new email address. I'd told her there was some mistake. It hadn't been a mistake. It had been Chloe and Daniel slowly shifting the account into their hands. I pulled out the old tin box Robert had once used for receipts and found the last surviving paper statement, dated nearly a year back. June 14th. $46,300. $46,000. Money Robert and I had scraped together in small ways, my house cleaning jobs, coupons, cancelled vacations. I'd never indulged in luxuries, not once. Robert had joked I was frugal to a fault. And yet, Chloe had slipped nearly all of it into her leather handbag like it was pocket change. The betrayal didn't just burn, it hollowed me out. So I did what I always used to do when Robert and I faced problems. I made a list. Dates. Moments. Odd little clues that, in hindsight, spelled out something darker. Daniel insisting on online banking after my surgery. Chloe urging me to let them handle paperwork. The sudden silence of missing statements. The bank's call about a new email. Daniel's overeager concern about my furnace repair last winter. Chloe's constant parade of expensive handbags and manicures, despite Daniel claiming money was tight. By the time I put my pen down, my hand ached. But the page screamed at me, this was no accident. This was planned. 2 nights later, I invited them over for dinner. Roast chicken. Potatoes. Carrots glazed in honey. The kind of homey meal Chloe always called a little too heavy. When they arrived, Daniel kissed my cheek, as casual as ever. Chloe breezed in on high heels, a brand new handbag swinging from her arm. Cream leather, gold buckle, not the one from the bank, no, this one was newer. Pricier. You didn't have to go all out, Ma, Daniel said warmly, sliding into his chair. Oh, I wanted to, I replied, forcing a smile. All the while, my eyes darted to Chloe's nails. Fresh gel polish, shimmering lilac. Each one a tiny, glossy dagger into my gut. We ate in relative silence, the only sounds the clink of forks and Daniel's occasional chuckle at some story Chloe told about her busy week. I waited until dessert, then dropped it casually. The furnace repairman said I might need a replacement soon, I said, spooning pudding into bowls. Costs are outrageous these days. Daniel didn't miss a beat. Want me to get some quotes for you, Ma? I nodded. Would you? Of course. His voice was easy, confident. Anything for you. Chloe didn't even look up from her phone. She was too busy scrolling, her thumb tapping like she had better things to do. I forced another smile, but inside, I was writing it all down in my head. When they left, I stood by the curtain, peeking through as they walked to their car. Daniel opened the door for her. Chloe laughed, hair tossing back like sunlight. It looked perfect. Too perfect. But I had seen the cracks. Later, I sat at the kitchen table with a notebook pulled from the junk drawer. I wrote everything down, the dinner, the handbag, the nails, Daniel's instant offer to look into repairs. It wasn't about remembering. It was about proving to myself that I wasn't imagining it. Because for months, maybe years, I'd been gaslit into believing I was forgetful, overly cautious, old-fashioned. No more. The next day, I went to their house under the excuse of dropping off Tupperware. Chloe answered the door, dressed in silk and yoga pants, perched on their spotless couch like a queen in her castle. Oh, Ella, she smiled, setting her tablet down. We were just thinking of redoing the kitchen. You know, just a refresh. A refresh. The countertops weren't even 3 years old. Must be nice to afford it, I said softly, handing her the container. She hesitated, then offered, well, Daniel's been managing everything really well lately. I smiled, polite as always. Good for him. But inside, a knot of certainty twisted tight. Later that evening, I made a phone call. I pretended I was interested in remodeling my own kitchen and asked about costs. The contractor on the other end perked up, instantly recalling Daniel and Chloe. They were a dream to work with, he said. Paid most of it in cash. Prompt, too. Cash. Of course. I hung up the phone, my heart thudding. Piece by piece, the puzzle was forming, each clue on its own could be dismissed. But together, they sang a song of betrayal. I returned to my notebook and jotted it down. Kitchen remodel, paid in cash. Source, contractor. The folder was growing. Each lie. Each inconsistency. Each glossy handbag that glittered with my sacrifice. I told myself I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was gathering. Preparing. But deep down, I could feel something darker brewing, a storm curling in my chest. And as I closed my notebook, a single thought whispered through me like ice. If they could steal from me so easily, what else were they capable of? They thought I was too old to notice. But I was watching now, and I was writing everything down. By the third week, the notebook wasn't just scribbles anymore. It was a case file. I stared at the pages, the ink smudged from my restless hand. Bank calls. Chloe's handbags. The remodel. Each line wasn't just memory anymore, it was evidence. Robert used to say, if you don't defend what's yours, someone else will claim it. I had let my guard down for too long. That morning, I dressed in my best coat, pinned on Robert's old silver brooch, and walked 2 blocks down to the office of Mr. Sterling, a lawyer who had once helped Robert with property papers. The waiting room smelled faintly of lemon polish. I sat, clutching my notebook like a lifeline. When Sterling finally ushered me in, his gray brows arched. Ella? It's been years. I wish it were a social call, I murmured, settling into the leather chair. I laid the notebook down between us. I think my son and his wife have stolen from me. For 2 hours, I talked. I told him about the surgery, the missing statements, the forged signatures, the withdrawals. Sterling's frown deepened with every page he turned. Ella, this isn't just carelessness. This looks deliberate. My throat tightened. So I'm not imagining it? He shook his head slowly. No. And if what you say about forged signatures is true, we're looking at fraud. Possibly even identity theft. The words made me shiver. Fraud. Theft. Identity. Words you saw in newspapers, not in your own life. Can I fight this? I asked, my voice trembling. Not only can you, Sterling said firmly, you must. But first, we'll need more proof than suspicion. Bank statements. Transactions. If you can get me copies, I'll take it from there. Proof. Cold, undeniable proof. I nodded, clutching my notebook tighter. I'll get you what you need. On my way out, I passed a cafe and paused at the window. Inside, Chloe sat at a corner table with 2 friends, laughing, flashing her manicured hands as she showed off yet another sparkling handbag. My stomach knotted. She wasn't just comfortable. She was thriving. And every glittering accessory screamed my name. That evening, my granddaughter, Lily, dropped by unexpectedly. 17, sharp-eyed, always with a sketchbook tucked under her arm. She was Daniel's daughter, but in her I often saw Robert's honesty. Grandma, she asked, slipping inside. Dad and Chloe, they've been weird lately. Like, secretive. I studied her face carefully. What do you mean? They keep fighting about money. I overheard Chloe say something about covering the paper trail. My pulse quickened. Lily, I said slowly, would you be willing to help me? Quietly. Her eyes widened, but she nodded. Of course. They treat me like I don't exist half the time. What do you need? For the first time, I felt a flicker of hope. Together, we made a plan. Lily would watch, listen, and, if possible, photograph any documents Chloe left lying around. I would go back to the bank and request duplicate statements under the guise of needing help with old files. It was risky. But I wasn't alone anymore. A week later, Lily came back pale and breathless, clutching her phone. I found something, she whispered, showing me a blurry photo. On the screen was a bank transfer slip, $15,000 moved from my account into a joint account under Daniel and Chloe's names. The date was just 3 months ago. I felt the room tilt. There it was. Proof. That night, I sat at the kitchen table with the slip printed out, my notebook open, and Sterling's card tucked beside me. The storm I had been holding back for weeks was finally breaking. But as I was preparing the documents, the phone rang. I almost didn't answer. But the voice on the other end froze my blood. Ella, a man said smoothly. I think you should stop digging. Families, they don't survive secrets like this. Click. The line went dead. It wasn't just Daniel and Chloe anymore. Someone else knew. And they were warning me to stop. For the first time in months, I was afraid to breathe in my own house. That phone call replayed in my ears all night. Families, they don't survive secrets like this. Who was he? And how did he know what I was doing? I double-locked the doors, pulled the curtains tight, and still couldn't sleep. Every creak in the old house sounded like footsteps. Every shadow looked like someone waiting. Robert used to tease me about being cautious, but now, caution was survival. The next morning, I called Mr. Sterling. I received a threat, I told him, my voice trembling. A threat? His tone sharpened. Ella, you must be careful. If they've gone this far, they'll go further. But listen, do not confront them directly. Let me handle the legal side. His words should have soothed me. But as I hung up, I realized something chilling. The call hadn't been about money. It had been about silence. Someone didn't just want my savings. They wanted me quiet. That evening, Lily slipped in through the back door. Her sketchbook was clutched against her chest, her eyes darting nervously. Grandma, she whispered, I think Dad suspects me. My stomach dropped. What happened? He went through my phone today. Said he was checking for viruses. But I know he was looking for something. He didn't find the transfer photo, I hid it on a USB, but he looked angry. I took her hands in mine. You need to be careful, sweetheart. Don't let him see you helping me. She bit her lip. Grandma, what if he already knows? The next day, I went to the bank alone, clutching Robert's brooch for courage. The teller hesitated when I requested duplicate statements. Mrs. Grace, your son usually manages this for you. I'll manage it myself, I said firmly, my voice shaking. After a long pause, she nodded and began printing. When the paper slid across the counter, my eyes scanned the numbers. My throat tightened. Withdrawals. Transfers. Thousands gone in increments, $500, $1,200, $3,000, until nearly all $46,300 had bled out. And at the bottom, the latest transaction, a pending transfer of $10,000 scheduled for Friday. Friday. 2 days away. They were still draining me. That night, I met Sterling again, shoving the statements across his desk. He read silently, jaw tightening. This is clear fraud. Ella, we have grounds for criminal charges. But if they sense what we're doing, they may accelerate everything, or worse. I frowned. Worse? Elder financial abuse cases can turn ugly. People panic. They lash out. I swallowed hard. Panic. Lash out. Those words weren't abstract anymore. They were Daniel's temper. Chloe's cold smile. The phone call. When I returned home, the curtains were drawn shut, just as I had left them. But something felt wrong. I stepped into the kitchen and froze. On the counter sat a single item that hadn't been there before. My notebook. Closed. But shifted, angled differently. Someone had been inside. I grabbed it with shaking hands, flipping through the pages. My lists. My notes. Lily's photo of the transfer slip. All still there. But scrawled across the last page in thick black ink was a single word. Stop. I staggered back, my chest tight, the room spinning. It wasn't paranoia. It wasn't imagination. They knew. That night, I called Lily, whispering into the phone. Sweetheart, you need to stay at a friend's house for now. Don't tell your father. Don't tell Chloe. Just, stay away. Her voice cracked. Grandma, are you safe? I glanced at the notebook on the counter, that ugly word bleeding through the paper. I don't know, I admitted softly. End of chapter 4, Suspense. It was no longer about money. It was about survival. And Friday was coming fast. By Friday morning, I was no longer the trembling widow they thought they could toy with. I was ready. The notebook lay in front of me, every page neatly copied. Mr. Sterling had already filed the documents with the authorities. The bank had flagged the pending $10,000 transfer. By noon, I knew Daniel and Chloe would realize something was wrong. And I wanted to see their faces when they did. I invited them to dinner. Roast beef this time. Warm bread. Wine. It was the kind of meal Robert would have prepared for serious conversations. When they arrived, Chloe looked radiant, her hair perfectly styled, a diamond bracelet glittering on her wrist. Daniel trailed behind her, his smile forced, eyes darting. "Ma," he said cautiously, "what's the occasion?" I gestured toward the table. "Just family. We haven't eaten together in a while." We sat. Forks clinked, glasses touched. For a moment, it almost felt normal. Until I slid the envelope across the table. "What's this?" Daniel asked, brow furrowing. "Why don't you open it?" I said softly. Chloe snatched it first, pulling out the photocopied bank statements, the transfer slip Lily had captured, and the note scrawled with "Stop." Her face drained of color. Daniel's jaw tightened. "Where did you get these?" I leaned back, steady, calm. "You left me no choice but to notice. And now the bank, the lawyer, and the police know too." Silence stretched like a blade between us. Finally, Chloe laughed, a sharp, brittle sound. "You think anyone's going to believe you over us? You're old, forgetful. Everyone knows Daniel manages your money." "That may have worked before," I said, my voice firm, "but not anymore. There are witnesses. Paper trails. And Lily." Chloe's head snapped up. "Lily?" I froze, realizing too late what I had revealed. Daniel's face darkened, his fists curling. "She's been snooping?" "No," I lied quickly, "she knows nothing." But Chloe was already rising, fury flashing in her eyes. "That little brat." Before she could finish, a knock rattled the door. 3 sharp raps. Daniel and Chloe stiffened. I stood, my heart racing, and opened it to find 2 police officers standing tall, Sterling just behind them. "Mrs. Grace," one officer said. "We need to speak with your son and his wife." Daniel leapt up, his chair clattering back. "This is insane. She's setting us up." Chloe hissed, "We can explain." But the officers were already moving inside, their presence heavy and unyielding. For a moment, I thought it was over. Until a voice rang from outside. Smooth. Familiar. "Gentlemen," the man said, stepping into the light, "this won't be necessary." My stomach dropped. It was the same voice from the phone call. The man wore a tailored suit, his smile sharp as a blade. He carried a briefcase, and behind him trailed another officer, one who didn't wear a uniform. Sterling stiffened. "Ella, this is Mr. Hartwell. Bank security investigator." Hartwell's eyes locked on me. Cold. Calculating. "Mrs. Grace, your son and his wife weren't working alone. They had help." The room tilted. Chloe's face twisted with anger. "You promised we'd be safe." Daniel's voice cracked. "You said she'd never know." My breath caught. "You mean, you weren't the ones who threatened me?" Hartwell's smile deepened. "They may have taken the money. But I've been ensuring the silence." The officers moved, suddenly flanking him. "Not anymore," one said firmly. "Mr. Hartwell, you're under arrest for conspiracy and obstruction." Hartwell's smile finally faltered as they cuffed him, the briefcase falling with a dull thud. Inside, the papers spilled, lists of names, amounts, accounts. Mine wasn't the only one. Chloe shrieked. Daniel cursed. Both were let out in handcuffs. The house fell quiet again, the echoes of betrayal hanging heavy in the air. Sterling placed a steady hand on my shoulder. "It's over, Ella. You'll get your money back. Not all of it, perhaps, but justice will be served." I nodded, though my chest felt hollow. Robert used to say justice is never clean, it's messy, but necessary. And as I stood in my silent kitchen, notebook closed at last, I realized he was right. But when I turned, Lily stood in the doorway, eyes wide, trembling. "Grandma," she whispered, "what if they come back?" I pulled her close, holding her tight. "They won't," I said firmly. "Because this time, I'm not afraid. They thought I was weak. They forgot, I was watching, I was writing, and I was ready."